we are introduced to the kingdom, King Ezekiel and his pet tiger, Shiva. Yeah, I don't think there's really anything else to say after that. Oh, except they definitely don't like the saviors. It's The Walking Dead, Season 7, Episode 2. The Well. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to this week's review of The Walking Dead. So, there are spoilers ahead, just so you've been warned. Alright, so we get a nice little reprieve after the season opener intense-o fest from last week. So, we get a little step back, get to, separate from Rick in the game, let them sort of do their bit of recovery, and get a look over at Morgan and Carol, and our introduction to the kingdom, another community that we are discovering existing in this world. It's not just Rick and his gang and Alexandria being the one sole safe haven out there. We've already learned about the hilltop community and of course the saviors, and now we have the kingdom. So we are expanding our world, finding new communities and new groups, which is a good thing. Because with the saviors out there, we're going to need as many allies as possible. So let's start things off with the opening sequence where we have Carol being brought to the kingdom. I thought that was kind of an interesting note there, just in and out of consciousness. I have to imagine being quite a shock to wake up in the midst of a walker attack like that. Very shocking, very jarring. I have to say, I don't really believe with the injuries that Carol suffered previously at the end of last season, getting shot in the arm, getting shot in the leg, that she would just after a little bandage be able to get up and sort of wander off like that. I think the leg would be slowing her down a bit more than it was in that sequences. But we're seeing the effects of the psychology of kind of Carol's little break here. She had stopped, she had left Alexandria because she didn't want to kill anymore. And then she went off and discovered she kind of needs that help. With Morgan out there, she's facing her own kind of internal death wish. And now in the sort of delirium of the wound and being chased by the walkers, she's getting an interesting insight back into the walkers. Again, kind of reflecting the world behind her and around her. And I think that's what those little glimpses of seeing the walkers as humans was bringing to her. It's just kind of re-examining the world, re-seeing the world, and maybe reinforcing why she would rather be off alone. That it's just been all too much for her. But of course she is saved and brought to the kingdom, and we get to meet King Ezekiel. A wonderful performance, a wonderful act. The presence that he brings is astounding. It's wonderful to see. And I do love Morgan's little hesitancy even with Carol. These aren't people just embracing whatever the world brings to them. There is that reality point. In fact, even Ezekiel brings that up to Morgan later on when he's talking about, the pessimist looks down and, hits his head. The optimist looks up and loses his footing. It's the realist that sees the world as it is and is able to negotiate, is able to make the changes to his own path. And I think that's very much where Morgan is establishing here as he's trying to introduce Carol to Ezekiel. Just even the whole idea of trying to bring up this type of figure, very Shakespearean, very archaic in his presentation, very much like somebody who you are sure has lost his mind in some level. Though, of course, as we find out later on, he is quite lucid, quite wise, and extremely compassionate. That's the one thing where we get that immediate stark difference between Negan from last week and King Ezekiel here. Ezekiel is in with his men. He is very compassionate. He is very caring. He is very open to bringing new people in, caring for them, and sending them on their way if they so wish. However, also, the rules of the New World do apply. And for Ezekiel, in this sense, the very simple idea is if you drink from the well, you replenish the well. You are here. If the community is going to contribute to you, it is only fair that you, in turn, treat the community. So we've got that nice kind of balancing effect. And I think for Morgan's part, the kingdom is representing an opportunity for him to re-examine his own life, his own path, and the different choices that he has made. It's wonderful that Ezekiel connected him with William. I think that's a nice pairing, and it gets Morgan to be in a teaching mode, a sensei mode. I loved, of course, the little references back to the cheesemaker. Always have to honor him. But more of the idea of the conversation with Will. I mean, I like Will seems to have a very grounded, realistic approach himself. The conversation they'd had with Morgan after the whole Savior scene, when he said, you know, what should we do? I don't know. In fact, I don't know enough to know that I don't know. I mean, really having that look of, not only is he limited in his in the choices that he can make, but his experience, he realizes, hasn't even given him the information to be able to make those choices. And that's a very wise position to come from. So it's very natural that he is connecting in with Morgan in this, who of course is going through his own sort of philosophical, not conundrum, just really more of an evolution, as he's thinking before of the, you know, not killing, and then after the whole thing with Carol's realizing sometimes that you have to kill. I think that was that moment in when they were looking with the Saviors, when he had pulled the gun and then stopped and sort of looked back down at it and was like, am I jumping too quick to this? Is this not something that I have to do? Which is what I think Ezekiel saw, and the reason that he paired him up for William. It's not just that he can react, but he knows how to make the choices to react that way, to fight or to not fight. And I think that's something that Ezekiel greatly appreciates. But of course, Morgan is looking at that change within himself, and he says it straight up to William. You know, I don't know. It's all changing right now for him too. But I love the little pairing. I love the moments that they had together, and it's nice to see that Morgan's character is really continuing to evolve and build off of his experiences and his choices, willing to re-examine them and then reapproach them after that. But really the best sequence in this whole episode was those moments between Ezekiel and Carol. Out there amongst the trees, amongst the fruit, nice relaxing area where Ezekiel is able to really let down his guard and tell his story. And it was a beautiful even transition with that as he goes from the very smooth voice and then just calms down and, man, y'all, and just really starts fooling that old self that he must have been, that old character, really letting his guard down with Carol, and in fact giving that opportunity to really connect and to have that discussion of, yes, we have all suffered and we have made choices, and no, I'm not fooling anyone. People need a leader, they need someone to follow, and I suppose if you are a large imposing black man with a frickin' tiger next to you, you are going to make that impression. And just the strength of character I thought was magnificent to see. I love everything about Ezekiel. I love Shiva. The whole sequence was just amazing. But like I said, that dropping of the card are very natural, really letting Carol in. And I think what we are seeing here is maybe the beginnings of a relationship. In the comics, for those of you who know, you already know, but for the rest of you, in the comics, this is actually with Michonne that Ezekiel starts to develop a relationship. These whole sequences was actually with Michonne in that. But of course, Michonne is with Rick. In the comics, Andrea is still alive. So Andrea's with Rick, and that leaves Michonne open to have a relationship with Ezekiel. Now that Michonne is with Rick, that all makes sense. I don't know if I double-checked everything. But now that Michonne is with Rick, now Carol is here, and I think Carol is going to probably embody that particular storyline. And we really see it at the end when Carol leaves but doesn't leave. I love that little two-way. It took a while to figure out that it was just live in the house that's right at the edge of the kingdom. But that last little sequence when Ezekiel shows up at the pomegranate, and you have that stern look from Carol that just suddenly breaks into the little smile right as the episode ends, I thought was beautiful. Really get to see. And this is, I think Carol deserves a good relationship after everything. I think she's in that place where she could embody someone who really appreciates her. Daryl is obviously going to be dealing with a whole lot more this season. So he's probably not going to be around for at least a little while. So it's nice that Carol can embody this, and I think that those were two real perfect characters kind of coming together there. A couple small little bits here. One, seeing the mounted cavalry in that opening scene just come after the walkers and Really get to see the deadliness of what mounted cavalry can do. Add the size and momentum of a horse on top of a weapon, and you can do a lot of damage. So very cool to see that. Oh, and also real quick with Carol and Ezekiel, I love the fact that Ezekiel saw right through Carol's whole little scaredy bit. I mean, Carol, of course, this is her fallback, is falling into scaredy Carol, little homie housemaker right there. And oh my God, it's all sort of amazing, exciting. I love that Ezekiel saw through that pretty quickly. On the other hand, also seeing Carol go around the kingdom and start to gathering, reaching out and grabbing the knife and the bar of chocolate and then the clothes off the, oh, can you just give me a tissue? Just beautiful, classic Carol. I love that. But the fact that Ezekiel saw right through it, even better. Oh, Jerry is awesome. I love Jerry. Ezekiel's right-hand man, his little guard, that guy is awesome. He has the best attitude. He is having a great time in the apocalypse. This is all good for him. And I love that energy that he carries, man. It's just, woo, peace. It was sweet. And finally, of course, the saviors. Oh, no, just if you thought that the kingdom might have been all by itself and protected. No, of course, they are dealing with Negan as well, but they are dealing with the saviors in their own very special way. They got to give them the hogs. Well, let's have the hogs fill up and fatten up eating walker meat. Just a real nice undercut. I'm not sure what the effect that the walker consumption will do to the pigs and the pigs' meat, and thus the saviors when they eat. It might be fine when it goes through the whole process. Pigs eat some really nasty things and seem to be all right, so maybe it doesn't have effect. On the other hand, if it does, definite bonus. And if you're going to be feeding the pigs anything to fatten them up to give to the saviors, might as well be walkers. You're not eating it yourself. Just awesome. So I think that will wrap us up for this week. We're going to be heading back to Alexandria next week and to see the consequences of Negan's assault from the beginning, Rick having to let the Alexandrians know what's going on, and of course, the Saviors are coming for their first collection. So that's going to be an interesting little meetup right there. So I have to wait till next week in order to catch that. So if you did enjoy this review, go ahead and hit that like button. You can hit the subscribe button right over here. Come back every week. We're also doing, of course, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Westworld right now. Highly recommend both of those shows. You should check them out if you have that opportunity. You can always catch me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Darren Jakes. And like I said, I think that'll be it. Oh, thoughts, ideas, throw those down in the comments section below. We'll keep a little conversation going on, anticipation ideas of what is going to come. Outside of that, I want to wish you all a very happy Halloween. I hope that you are enjoying your time doing some great costume work and, of course, being safe while you're out there. That's important. It's a crazy night. Lots of people having fun. You be safe so you can come back and not miss any more of the shows coming up. You don't want anything to happen and do that. So, all right. We're going to call it quits for the night. So, I am D, and I am out of here. You guys take it easy. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.